Dear listeners, welcome at the first episode of the new series called Aschen Complex from podcast channel Solid State Society. This new series will be follow-up to previous gender war series, Gender Wars and Failures of Women. But in this series, otherwise than previous one, I will be talking about gender wars and rise of the feminism have negative impact on society and especially on us, men, but without topics of romantic relationship, sex, and mating. No, in this series, I will be talking strictly only against negative impact of gender wars on our society without this topic. Sometimes I will cross the line a little bit, but mainly I will stay only on the topics of things what affect our lives, the gender wars and rise of the feminism without need for romantic partner, sex, and creating of families and having children. First, I want to explain why I call it Aschen Complex and what that actually means. Aschens are name of one race from sci-fi series Stargate SG-1. And this alien evolved race was different than all other evil races what you can see in all books, series, and movies all across our sci-fi fantasy genre. The Aschens appeared in 2 episodes of this show was different. They was our enemies. They want to destroy us. But they do not start to fight with us. They do not wage the wars, do not send their spaceship to destroy us or things like that. No, not at all. There was enemy clever and cunning. Instead of fighting with us, they offer us their friendship, their kindness. They offer us to become part of their civilization and state. They give us their wonderful evolved technology, transportation over continents in the second, ability to change Saturn to another sun, or drug that make us constantly healthy and extend our lives. But the Aschens was enemies. They wanted only to destroy us and seize what is ours. But they was more clever enemy. Drug what they give it to us have side effect, and that effect was sterility. Instead of fighting with us, spending their resources, their people on the war with the enemy, they was cunning. They give us something would make us sterile, and then they just waited, and when we die out naturally, just take what was originally ours. And they did it with other races and other planets as well. That was how they conquer other civilization and other planets and seize what there was theirs before. Aschens do not get too much credit and they are not remembered too much. But in sci-fi genre, they was very unique and special because instead of evil alien villains trying to destroy us, constantly waging war and inspire us to evolve, to fight with them and destroy them, they was more cunning and clever. They appeal as our friends, welcoming and good, and planning to destroy us only behind us. They tricked us. That's the reason why I called the follow-up of Gender Series and Failures of Women, the series again talking about gender wars, but from wider perspective than just relationship, romantic relationship, mating and sex. That's why I call it Aschen complex. Because it's the same as Aschen's, basically same as Trojan horse. It's something that it looks on surface kind, welcoming and good. But in reality, inside, it's devious, evil, and have only one goal. And that goal is destroying us and annihilate us. I generally believe the feminism and basically all branches of the communism are as that. On surface, they looks appealing, they looks good, they looks like welcoming, and they want just good for the people. Communism wanted only to people be equal. Feminism want only to be man and woman be equal and have equal possibilities and opportunities. But now, after 200 years of these evil ideologies spreading through our society, we can finally see that they are just actions. That reality is that even welcoming on surface, they are bringing destruction and annihilation of our culture, our race, and our planet. First, I want to remind you, for those who saw or do not saw the first series on this channel, Rise and Fall of the Feminism, Rise and Fall of the Capitalism, that I'm not conspirator. I don't believe in conspiracies. I don't believe that there is some evil entity or mastermind group like Illuminati behind the curtains trying to play out over the world, control us and destroy us, basically from behind, from the shadows. I don't believe that. I believe that things are happening, let's say, unconsciously, that one leads to another without some plan, willingness, or conscious decision. It's just thing A have impact on thing B, and that have impact on thing C or group C. It's what I was trying to explain in the first series, Rise and Fall of the Capitalism, how the capitalism create to rise of the communist social ideologies like the communism, or in our example, feminism. And this is the same example. Feminism, even when it's not consciously evil, it's unconsciously. It's create outcomes what it's not even realizing that will have. That's the point. And it's actually even more devious if you think about it. I wish that there would be some kind of evil alien entity or some Illuminati group behind the shadows trying to destroy our society. That would be actually more easy, because they could be identified, they could be destroyed or stopped. But in reality, what is happening in our society with gender wars, with rise of the communism or feminism, is that these things are happening naturally, without even knowing or realizing of the people, let's say feminists, realizing that what they are actually causing is bad for us. In this first episode, and in all series, I want to talk about how the feminism and the outcome of gender wars have negative impact, especially for us men, without romantic relationships, sex and mating. First, I want to start with housing market and how that negative, the outcomes of the feminism and what they bring to our society, how that negatively affect me as the person who, let's say for the moment, I'm a man who don't want any relationship, any romantic relationship with women. That I don't need sex or I don't want children. Basically, ideal deity of group and MGTOW man who wants to go their own way. Let's say I'm the person, I'm a human who want to exist, just normal work, normal life, but I don't need romantic relationship with women at all. But still, the feminism and outcomes of gender wars have negative impact on my life, on society around me, and have heavily negative impact on me and my society. First of all, I want to talk about housing market. How housing market is hugely saturated. I am living in the country that is post-communist country. I am in Czech Republic. For 40 years after World War II, we was communist country. We have planned economy, communism that almost destroy us. But then during the 90s, we changed, we became capitalist. And now we are capitalist country for 30 years. Just for a little bit background for you. For many years, I believe that the saturation of housing market and how prices of houses are out of control is just basically a thing in my country or post-Soviet countries, that it's caused by change from the communism to capitalism. But then I start to look all around our planet and discovered that toxicity of housing market, or what our economic capitalist friend would call saturation of housing market, the prices are too high. The people almost do not have chance to find suitable living places, suitable apartments, or have mortgage to have their own housing or their own apartments. And this situation is not just in my post-Soviet country, but it's everywhere. From United States, across states of European Union to China to Japan, everywhere is the same problem. Everywhere the people have problems, so the cost must be different than my state be 40 years in communism. And I thought about it more and more, and then finally, in one of the podcast, dating podcast, there was some, I don't want to say elderly, but older man who make wonderful point. In the past, before the rise of the feminism, before the rise of suffragette and first wave of the feminist, most people, and typical model was the family, wife, husband, and their children live together in one home, one place, one home, or one house or one apartment. But now, 200 years later, through ability to divorce, through ability of women work themselves, have support from the states and other things, what I will be talking about, now most families, at least for some degree, or many families, are now live in two places at once. Because, let's say, family is divorced or never get together, you have mother with the children living on one place, let's say a house, and the father of the child living in his own apartment because they divorced or something like that. But if we take them, if we look on them like one family unit, from their family finance, now they are demanding two places to stay, and they are paying two places to stay. And this is the cause of the problem, because we basically risen demand for housing, we double it compared to our past. Now the people, the society is demanding 2 times more house or apartments compare what they demand in the past, and that's lead to saturation. our capitalist friend would explain to you basic equation of demand and offer. If the offer became lower or demand became higher, that leads to saturation of market. And we are capitalist societies, so we have free markets, uncontrolled markets that are responding on the situation. And with saturation, that leads to hiring the prices. So when you now, in our society, for 3 people, we are demanding 2 homes instead of 1, we saturated market. And this is the cost why the housing market is saturated all over the planet. Because all over the planet, because spread of our Western civilization, feminism inside, women can work. Women even must work themselves. They are not staying home at home. They have greater need or wanted divorce and living separately without fathers of their children. That create higher demand. And on uncontrolled market, higher demand leads to saturation of market. The prices of today apartments, of mortgage on the houses, are too big just because we allowed market to respond on higher demand. And we create a higher demand. Instead of say, hey, you two have children, you have family, you must stay together, you cannot divorce, or you must be together, and you must stay on one place together, we allowed people to live separately. That leads to saturation of market. And saturated market leads to higher prices. So every time, dear brothers, dear mans, or even the women's, every time when you are paying your rent or paying your mortgage, or you are not able to afford mortgage on house, it's mistake, it's outcome of this thing. If we would be like 200 years in the past, the family would be forced to live together and demand would be much lower, basically half of what it's today, on basically the same amount of people, and the prices would be much lower. So imagine that right now you are paying, let's say, 4 times more for the rent in apartment or for mortgage on your house. And especially our capitalist friends do not want to acknowledge that because they like it. They like that they can sell the houses for much higher prices, that for their rents they giving more money. They like it, but they do not see how they're destroying our society, how too high prices leads basically what they called deflation or collapse of the market, that most people right now do not or cannot afford housing or living in apartments. And that affects society back because that leads to have high problems to establishing families, having children, and other things. I believe it's maybe more than 10 years ago, one of the millionaires have quote that the people cannot afford houses because they are buying too much sandwich with avocado. And I start to think and calculate it in my hand. I will not say the prices because basically I understand the prices and salaries and value of the money could be different in your country than in mine. But let's say think about how average person, average family can save every month and how much they must save through the time to actually acquire or pay on mortgage to have their own apartment or have their own homes, their own houses. I realized one thing. If I would take what average person can save from his salary, let's say young man who enter workforce after the school or college and now working very hard, do not need too much food, do not need to spend, do not have spending on the family or children, how much on average he can save. And I calculated that it would be okay if you would, let's say, save 1, 2, 3, maximum 5 years. That is good time span. You can save for 5 years. 5 years is maximum. But let's say talk 2 years. If you would be young man, save what most average person can save every month, and after 2 years you could go and buy your own small but at least your own apartment or buy a little house. Then after 2 years that would be right. But right now, with saturation of market, with hiring of prices, to actually get house or apartment of your own, you must pay mortgage or save averagely what average person can save, not 1 year, not 2 years, not 5 years, but 20 or 30 years. And there are people who cannot save enough in their lifetime. So the market is definitely saturated and it's definitely not good. This has impact on people, on society, how it works. Few years ago, I listened to these two girls. I must admit that I often doing one thing. I like to hearing discussion of especially women when I'm traveling in public transportation. And there was these two girls, average, they was not girls anymore, they was young women. And one woman was talking about how she have friend and the friend want to be with her, want to have sex with her, but she is not so interested and she don't want to be with him. And the main reason is that they do not have empty apartment because the man is still living with his own parents at their home and do not have apartment for his own. She literally says that if that man or boy would have his own place, some small apartment or some house where he could live alone, she would be willing to go with him and have sex with him. But because he's living with his own parents, she is not interested. And I was start to think and realize, yes, this is true. And this means lots, because that means that, let's say she will find a husband or man and have children with someone much later on. Because if there would a society and civilization allow that man, allow that boy have its own apartment, she would have a sex with him. And sex often could lead to some kind of relationship. And maybe they both would find that they are suitable to each other, became living together, start a family, married maybe, and have children much early in their lives than they would have in our reality. The housing markets have negative effect on how people getting together, creation of relationship, and from that, of course, birth rates and creating of new people. It's not just about I don't like that I'm spending most of my money from my salary on rent or mortgage on my house. It's about how that infected my own life. That's a negative. The saturation of market is bad for all of us because we now must all pay much more for our apartments, for our house, that we actually should. And that affect our lives. Think about that money. Let's say imagine that housing, the rents or mortgage would be 4 times lower than they are today. How much from your salary would you be able to spend on other things? If you would have your own apartment, if the young boys would be able to save enough money in just 2 or 3 years to buy his own small apartment early in his life, how much relationship would actually start? How much families would be established much early or would be established at all? And how many children would be born instead? Saturation of market have negative impact on all of us, and it's all around the world. This is a huge problem. What somebody must fix. The problem of land and how homes is the problem that leads to destruction of Roman Republic, leads to destruction of Tsar Empire and rise of the communist Soviet Union and many other examples. People must have places where to live. And there are some twisted special capitalist intellectuals like that millionaires who is arguing that you could afford apartment if you would not buy too much sandwiches with avocado. That's stupid. I told you at the beginning that the average amount of money what average person can save, and if I multiply it for 2 years, let's say 20 or 30 times. I know the year have 12 months, but I'll calculate it with example that during the Christmas or during the vacation, you do not have ability to save something, or your saving must be spent on, let's say, present to your family, friends, and other things like that. So I'll calculate it that you can save 10 times in 1 year. So average saving in 1 month of average person, let's say young man, and young mans because they do not have too high salaries, but because they do not need too much things, they could literally live, they could just work and live on low price pizza and TV or computer in their small room, that they could save much more money compared to, let's say, 10 years later when they have families, when they have girlfriends, and must spend much more money on even their dress or family members or things like that. So yes, young boys have ability to save much of their salaries, even when their salaries are lower than through their life. And if we take that average saving of a young man who just entered workforce, if he would be able to buy his apartment or at least partially house in 2 years or 3 years, that would be okay. But when he must spend 20 years of his life to get actually, or even 30 years now, to get some kind of small apartment, or at least quarter, let's say, of the house, of the mortgage on the house, that's a real problem. People are often forgetting all around the world that money is just icon. This paper or coin things are just icon. They are symbol. They are symbol of work. If I spend in my country, it's, let's say, 2,000 Czech crowns, let's say $100 or €100 on fancy dinner with women would I ask on date with me, I am basically giving my, let's say, 2 days of work on you. The money are icon. They are symbol of your work. If someone wants more money from you, they basically want more work from you. Imagine it like instead of 2 years of work, they wanted 20 years of your work. Imagine that you would be working on construction for that person instead of working in your work, in your job, and then giving the money for that. Imagining that you will be building your own house on someone's land, but you must build it yourself. Instead of 2 years, build it and have new home, new house, you would spend, they are forcing you, the landlord is forcing you to work on that house 20 years. That's a huge difference. And someone is taking your work, your job, 10 times more than it actually have value. The monies are just symbol of the work. And if someone wants more money from you, or if someone is taking your money and using them on something, let's say state take the money from you through tax and giving them to someone else, it's basically like forcing you to work for someone. That's what most people do not realize. If we have saturated market, if the landowners are asking you to pay much more for your rent or for your mortgage, that means that someone is taking much more of your work. And that is bad. I hope the more people will realize that. But this is not only field that is heavily infected by reality of gender wars and ideas and pushbacks of the feminism. There is another saturation, and that's market of workforce, your jobs. First things, what first wave of feminism was demanding was not voting right, but was right to go and work, to have a job. It's not like it's creating image that women could not work in the past at all. No, actually, that's not true. Many women work in the past, but the main goal of the women in the past, through all the civilization, through all the human history, was that instead going to work, they went having families, having children, and through the children and partner, they established their future. And then first feminist suffragette came, marching and demanding that women could go and work as well. Because instead of having children, having family, and through family establish their own future, what they demand was going to the work, having their own profit, and through the profit, through the money, what they will have, establish their future and their pension when they will get old. This have also consequences of workforce market, on job market, because Again, let's say you have a stable number of population, but because we live in capitalism, most of us live in capitalism. Even in China, we have some kind of, for some degree, capitalism and markets that are mainly uncontrolled. And what happens when you, as the employer, have now more employees that are coming for your job? Again, it leads to saturation of market, but this time it leads to lowering your salary. And by the way, this is great proof how the capitalism and communism, even when capitalism is right-wing ideology and system, and feminism is another branch of communism, and left-wing, that means that it's left-wing ideology, both can cooperate because they both can benefit from each other, especially capitalism supporting feminism because it's good for them. For capitalists, for many capitalists, employers, the CEOs, managers, and directors of companies, founders of the companies, and businessmen, it's always better to have larger market of potential employees for them, because that leads them to give you lower salaries. Many people, and especially many communists, do not understand why, let's say, person cleaning streets don't have salary as a rocket engine engineer. The explanation why engineers have much higher salaries than the person who is cleaning the streets is simple. Your salary depends on how many people in your area, in your state, in your time can do your work. More specialized the work and more needed work is. So lower number of the people can do the work, the higher salary is. But if your work can do more people, then that means that your employer can give you lower salary. That's the reason why the person who is cleaning streets have so low salary and rocket engineer have high salary. Because there is not too many rocket engineers. There is not too many people who can replace you on the job. On the other hand, many people, or most of the people, can walk and clean the streets. That's why they have lower salary. And with coming of the feminism, with their pushing for women, more women going to work, they create situation that now for many jobs, can women apply it also? So from the point of view of your employer, of companies, corporations, and the self-made businessmen, they have more people that could apply to your position, and then it means that they give you lower salary. It's simple as that. This is actually the reason why from last 200 years, we change from one husband, salary, home, income. We change our family models for double income housing, for double income families. Because now men are getting lower salary because women are in workforce. Honestly, few years ago, when I first saw the series Handmaid's Tale, I made one episode of Gender Wars about it. In Handmaid's Tale, there is future fantasy or sci-fi, how you want to call it, future state Gilead that changed regime totally. And in one of the episodes of Aschen Complex, I will be talking about Gilead myself. Gilead forbid women to go to work. And when I first heard that, I said to myself, oh, this is stupid. This is stupid. They basically eliminate half of economic potential of their country. That leads to probably huge economic depression, and the society is not working how it could be. This is my first thought when I saw that. Many months later, or even years, I actually start to think about it. If the Gilead was not actually right. Let's say if you forbid it, women now going to work, to have full-time employees, to become full-time employees. So they will be eliminated from job market. In long term, that would force employers to raise the employee salary. Basically, we would return to state before the rise of the feminism that one man would be capable to fully feed his own family because his income will be at least the same as double income of today. Think about it. If we did not allow women to go to work, that means that salaries of men would be forced to hire, because now with less employees on some position, employer would be forced to give more money, to give higher salary for that position. With the disappearance of women from working market, from job market, it would force employers to give higher salary to their employees. That would be very good. All around today in the capital, for those who listen my first series, Rise and Fall of the Capitalism, you know that I despise capitalism. I saw the mistakes of the capitalism as well as the communism. I am the person in this special position on post-communist country, now very capitalist country. I see the mistakes and flaws of both systems. I see how much they are wrong on different things, but they are. One of the huge problems of the capitalism is that if you have employees, if you have some company, corporation, some CEO, some businessman, you cannot force them to hire their salary. They would rather cut their own leg than have risen the salary for their employees. That's the reason why they like immigration, why they like multiculturalism, because they like the fact that people from other countries can come and apply for job what normal person, normal citizen of your country is applying to, because that give them ability to give them lower salary. The capitalists like that fact. Capitalists, true capitalists, employers, the corporation companies like the fact of immigration, uncontrolled immigration, because that give them ability to give lower employees lower salaries. And the feminism is causing the same thing. It's obvious how the capitalists are supporting multiculturalism that leads to immigration, how they support feminism, and that leads to women entering the workforce, job market, and that will lead to employees giving their own employers to give employees lower salaries. This is the outcome. But if we did something like Gilead did from The Handmaid's Tale, the state from Handmaid's Tale, and we forbid women to have full-time works, we would force them to go back to homes and families and have children. And that's good for other things, what I will be talking later on. But mainly, that would be eventually force, finally, employers, the companies, corporation, and other business to give higher salaries of their employees. But yes, there will be some markets that would be more limited. Let's say the need for transportation, need for cars would be affected negatively, of course. But on the other hand, the markets like food would be basically the same because you still have the same amount of people. And you have same amount of people, they demand or want to buy a same amount of food. Yes, again, that would lead to lowering or collapse of housing market and adjusted to new reality when women would be actually forced to stay at home with the husband because the husband was the caretaker who is bringing money to the household as it was before the rise of the feminism. So that would lead to lowering the rents, hiring the salaries for you as the man, and women be more dependent on their own husbands or fathers. For you as the man, it's win-win. Of course, it's bad for the woman, but let's talk for the moment why the women actually won it at first place. Why the first suffragette, the first wave of the feminism want to go to work? Think about it. You have civilization, you have culture like almost all others. Women are staying as the young girls at home of the father. Then they would find a partner, husband. They move to house of the husband because husband is able to buy or is able to at least have money for the rent of bigger apartment. And now women move to house of the husband. She's getting money from the husband. She's giving the birth of the children and stay at home and take care over the children. If you have society where mainly most of the women are like that, why you suddenly have larger number of women that is coming and demanding change of that, demanding to have ability to go and work in jobs? Think about it for the moment. Why some women want that? An explanation is quite easy. Because they need it. First wave of the feminism, first feminist, suffragette, was calling and demanding work because they was not able to find a partner, a husband, or worse, in reality was that most women are pretty capable to find a partner, to find a husband. But many women, and especially feminists, are actually not able to withhold, to force men to stay with them. That was the reason why most of the feminists of first wave went out marching and demanding job, demanding that the women could enter the workforce. Because they was not able to have long-time husband who will be take care about them, at least in financial way. They was failed women. They failed in main basic thing what women should do. Go find a partner, establish family with him, and have children with him. That was the real reason why feminism started. Because suddenly we have a new class of women that are now demanding job because they could not find the partner for their own, or they could not hold the partner enough long that would giving money them. But this created that problem, created saturation of market. By entering workforce, they lower the salaries of men, of me. And because of that, because they enter workforce, they have their own money, they start slow, painful, but eventually now where we see the process of destroying the family. In the past, people was in families, people married each other and stayed together not because they wanted, but they was forced to, because they needed. And we allowed to destroy that. That have negative impact on us in matter of workforce and the salaries. Women could easily be at home and just take about the household chores and take care about the families. But instead, they was forced to go to workforce. And now most women now must go outside and work in the jobs. Household now need double income because the actual salary what man bringing to home have much lower value than it have before the rise of the feminism. Now we are in the state where women, even when they don't want to, they are forced to work. And this is cause of the first wave of the feminism and their demand for the job. And they start to destroy families, then leads to saturation of housing markets, as I told before. And it have the major negative impact on our society that I will be talking at the end of this episode. And it's lowering number of birth people, creating the population, the crisis. It's fairly established that a woman that is in household with the family, with a husband, in marriage, in long term, that means that she married him early in her life and she stay with him longer, have more children. Instead, when she get married older, and she could divorce. And she could divorce because she is working and have her own money. The first way of the feminism, demand for the job, negatively affect not just the salary what I am having as the man person in our society, but also destroy family model. Because now women are not forced to stay together. And by the way, it's actually for the men as well. Now men can leave families because they know that the mother with the child can withstand their own, that she still can go. And that's kind of double standard, or as I often say, how the women always take only positive from things and not negative from new things. That the men are still forced to pay the money on the child, even when the women now have ability to go and work for herself. Why is that? I believe this is some legacy of past, of history. Yes, in the past, it makes total logic that if you abandon family, the state is forcing you to pay money for the family, especially when the family have children. Because in the past, women would not be able to go to work and have the profit, the salary of her own, and then feed her own family and the children. But now they have ability, and they are even encouraged heavily by our culture that they should go work, have their, as we call it, career, have their money, and if they have child with someone, they can totally financially care about the child, their own. Why the men are still by the law forced to pay for the children if they decide one or the second side abandon each other? That don't make sense. And I don't say that I am in favor of that. No, not at all. I don't think that it's okay, the splitting families. I already explained to you that it's bad from perspective of housing market, and it have negative impact of how many children are born, and it have negative impact or behavior and childhood of the child itself. But I will be talking about that more later. But come back to the feminists, to first wave of the feminists. I stated several times, but I will repeat it again. The first feminist was not just failures women, but if you look upon them, you discovered that they was kind of disturbing or even disgusting people. I said that the first women, the first founders of the feminism, was usually women who was capable to have a man, but was not capable to hold a man with them. Because, be honestly, they were so crazy, they were so disturbing people that no man wanted to stay with them. And in one post on social network what I made a few days ago, I made a statement, and I know I'm not the first one who is talking about it, how the feminism is the scam. And it's totally true. And one of the point of that true is that the founders of the feminism was failure women, the women that was not able to hold men who can support them financially. Because they was totally crazy, they was arrogant, and no person want to stay with them. And they not just win, acquire ability to go to work themselves, and that give them chance to generate profit. And now they are not forced to stay with men, but they reshape the culture and society the way that from most of today women to the influx, to manipulation and indoctrination of feminism, they are the same people as the feminists from the beginning. Most women today are the person from which you cannot stay for long period of time. It's not possible. They are damaged. And they are damaged by culture that was started by already damaged women. That was the real reason. And it's funny how we are constantly repeating same pattern. In our today's society, we are deeming incels, red pill communities, men who are unable to find a woman, find a partner, have girlfriend or wife. We look upon them, we mock them, we say that it's their fault, how pathetic they are. But what we do not do is that look and say, hey, we have this huge, and it's huge by the way, we have this huge number of the people who are not capable to do something what for most human are basic, and we should start to ask why they are not capable to do that and how we can change that. But we are not doing that. And by the way, it's repeated what we did. When the feminism started 200 years ago, when the first suffragette came to society, have suppressed them to police and things like that. In newspapers, if you read articles from back then, you discover that society and culture was totally mocking them. Oh, these suffragettes, these feminist women, they are just ugly women who cannot find husband that would take care about them. Shame on them. They shamed them. They did precisely the same way as we are doing today with incels. They are shaming them, do not take care who they are, how they are suffering, and why they are the way how they are. What the society back then did back then was to look upon this group and find, hey, these women are not capable to find husband who can stay with them. We should ask why, and when we discover why, then we should try to change that. Honestly, back then, before the rise of the feminism, let's say 8 from 10 women was fully capable to find a man that would stay with them in long term. 9 women was not capable, but just for minor things. But 10 women was women that would not capable to find, or more importantly and majorly, to hold man for longer period of time or for a whole life. And from these women, the feminism was born. And instead of us, society, look upon them when they appeared, when they became vocal, instead of look upon them and say, hey, why these women cannot find and hold husband that would give them money and they would have money through the husband, why instead they are marching on our streets and demanding to work and have money of themselves? They did not ask. And we are doing the same mistake. And I would not remind you about how that actually evolved with the feminism. Now feminism is controlling almost everything. Most women today is saying that they are feminist freely. They are even proud to be feminist. Feminism is fully in control of our culture, of our politics, of our economy, and many other parts of human society. And if we knew how that happened with feminism, we could just project it how that will end up with incel and red pill movement. Because again, we are not asking. And men are angry. And they are rightful angry. Because through the feminism, through the fact that women, instead of finding husband that could take care about them and having more children with him, now women are going to work. They are even forced to going to work. And that is lowering my salary. And I have lower salary. I'm paying much more for my rent or for my mortgage. Unable to afford house. Many people, especially Americans, are constantly saying that in 1950s, it was pretty easy for men who start to work to go and acquire a house for himself and his family. And the situation now, 70 years later, is totally different. And I believe it's outcome of the feminism. And even if I'm the man who, let's say, don't want any woman, don't want have family, have children, do not have need for romantic relationship or sex at all, it still affect me because I have lower salary and I am paying much more rent. And the problem, and another additional problem, what was created because women want to go to workforce. But the first problem was that, honestly, women are worse workforce. They are worse workers than men. I know that they are now trying to persuade you about gender pay gap and create this great lie, or I would more call it great myth of gender pay gap, that, oh, women are paid less and it's an injustice. No, it's not injustice, because women are worse workers than men from their basic nature. In average, I work in hotel industry, and that's a service, and that's actually industry where women can more use their own abilities. It's better suited them compared to, let's say, mining or working or oil rig. This is industry where women can flourish. I was as manager many years, hiring, firing, and working with many hundreds and hundreds of receptionists under my leadership. I was hiring them, I was firing them, I was training them, I was working with them. And on reception, the women could flourish as many other industries cannot, because receptionists in hotel must have mainly good communication skills. And women, as I explained in 7 Circle of Hell of Gender Wars, are mainly communicators compared to men who have mathematical brains. Women are good in communication. So this is work field for them, basically more suited than almost all other works. And this is work where they can flourish. But in theory, this could work for them. But from the practice, I will tell you, it's actually worse. It's actually not like that. From my view as the employer, the women are worse employees on this position, on position of receptionist. That is not heavy work. You are not doing something physical at all. You are just working with computers, communicating with people, and basically sitting on your butt on the chair. But still, even in this field that is heavily in favor of women, they are worse workers than men. If I would hiring new receptionists and I would have basically same 2 people, one would be women and one would be man, I would prefer and better value would have a man for me. And not just because I'm some kind of sexist, but basically just from the fact that men are more willing to work during the nights. They take more night shift, especially because they are not afraid as much. Women are constantly afraid. They are afraid, especially during the night, that some kind of accident or danger person will enter the hotel and they will have to deal with some kind of problem or dangerous person. Men, on average, have lower fear of night shift than women. So he is better for me from this point of view. For men, I could order him, let's say, even when the receptionist is mainly soft work and not physical things are that, I could order him to move garbage outside the home, so I could move garbage can outside the hotel during the night, so garbage services will take it out and drive it away. But I could not order that to women, because women, and this is established even by law, cannot take burdens higher than some degree, and they are even not capable. So from my point of view, who is better employee for me? The man or women? Man, of course, because he have greater ability. I can send him on night shift. I can ask him to do physical work when it's needed. Let's say to gather goods what was ordered for the hotel, and some kind of delivery company was just bringing to him to reception or to part of the hotel, and it must be to move to, let's say, freezer, or in the case of garbage cans. So he is the person, he is the worker that is capable to do for me, employer, much more. So from that point of view, he have better value for me. Of course, I want to hire him instead of her. So our dear feminist and capital as well came up with solution of that, how to more leveled field, because they knew, on not consciously but unconsciously, they knew that women are actually worse in workforce than men. So they came up with solution. They create new type of higher education, they reshape universities so women have some kind of degrees from the universities, so they would be more appealing for future employers. And yes, I didn't know that the capitalists actually want replace men with women on the workforce, because the women are on average also more agreeable than men. So that means that they would not probably ask for salary higher than the man. So for me as the employee, that's a good one. But if the person is not as good as the man, I explained that in previous situation, still I want to hire man because he is more capable in that work. But they came up with a solution. Solution was creating this huge system of higher education, university, that is creating millions and millions of women with some degree, doctorate or something like that, so they would appear more appealing to future employees. We know that higher education is heavily biased today, with things like gender studies or philosophy studies and things like that, to just artificially create degrees so the women would be more appealing and would be capable to acquire jobs on working market. This is unconscious, but it's outcome of women entering workforce. This is literally how the Aschens enforce reality that women could be hired more than men, because now they look more appealing to future employer. Oh, this woman have degree from university, so she must be good, I will hire her. But today, actually, more and more employers are waking up from that false illusion. They are more and more realizing that degrees what women have from things like gender studies or philosophies are actually not valid, do not have the value, and it's better to hire men that do not have university at all, but he would be capable in that work, instead of women that spend many years on university. So she's indoctrinated by these feminist communist ideas as much as it's possible. I generally call today universities factories on communist horse. And this is not a metaphor, this is reality. The women who are coming from today's university on our Western world are promiscuous whores indoctrinated by communist ideologies. And you as the employers don't want to hire them. You rather hire a young man who is maybe not well educated, but he's trying. From my point of worker and employer in hotels industry, I would rather hire a young man. I could send him on night shift. I could ask him to move heavy things instead of women with some degree from university where she study philosophy or gender studies. And don't take me wrong, I actually do believe that yes, there should be some kind of gender studies and there should be some kind of philosophy classes on universities. But not millions of them. That's my point. Yes, I believe that I am from small state that have 10 million people. And yes, I believe that there's supposed to be, let's say, 10, 20, 30, maximum 100 people studying in my country for gender studies. Partially, few of these people could study that, could have analysis on that. I'm actually doing their work. I am analyzing the gender and gender wars. So I'm doing their work. So I know that these people could be and should be. But the reality is that in my small state where we have 10 million of people, thousands and thousands of women just on university in main city is studying gender studies and philosophy. That's not 10, that's 100 times more than it should be. And they are studying that only because they would not be able to do real studies, to study and become better in industries like engineering or, I don't want to say medicine, but let's say medicine, because that's our real things, what you must really understand, know, and evolve. And I know, yes, the feminist and modern women, what they are doing today constantly is taking one small exception and making us the rule. Modern women are constantly doing that. Yes, there are few women who are good in, let's say, engineering. There are actually many women who are good in medicine, basically because they are more caring people. Yes, but I'm talking about average. On average, more men are suitable for more evolved or more complex science like engineering than women. This is reality. But we create education, higher education, university system all around our Western world so the women could be capable to apply and going through that. An entire education system would become so biased against boys and men, and nobody sees that. Many, many years ago, I actually saw a very good article. That article was basically saying that today's education system, schools, are biased against men and boys. How? We know, and that's partially what I explain in 7 Circles of Hell of Gender Wars, we know that young girls are the ones who are capable to better communicate, better remember huge amounts of information. So let's say they are capable to remember book of biology or engineering and replicate it, speak and remember each part. On the other hand, boys are worse in remembering things and remembering amounts of information, but on the other hand, they are capable to to understand the information. They more need to, let's say, have touch to things, to experience the things itself, to go outside and see the things or touch or try the things on their own, on their self, but then they have huge understanding, and understanding means that they could come from there, they could replicate it there. Basically, let's say that the girls could remember entire book from animals, and let's could replicate it you how the animals work, how they, let's say, breed and how they behave, but they are truly not capable to understand data what they are replicated. On other hand, boys would not learn from books, would not be capable of replicating information emptily as the girls. But on other hand, if you take them to zoo and show them animals, so they could watch the animals, how the animals behave, how they looks like, how their, let's say, breeding cycle are working. They will remember it, and they would actually replicate it because they would truly understand. And this is a huge problem of today education system, because we are forcing children from very young age to higher education to sit on the chairs in their classes. We are throwing information on them and expecting them just to replicate it. The biggest problem of today education system, and I don't mean only higher education like universities, but all education system, is that with coming of cybernetization, with cell phone, I could find, if I would have, imagine in the future that if I would have, let's say, the phone, cell phone connection to internet in my head, I would be capable to find any information on internet. And that means that I would go through entire education system, or most of it, with ease. Because all the tests, all the education system is telling me, okay, I throw information on you. Hey, this is this animal, this is this animal is breeding like this animal is breeding like that, and you just replicate it and tell me that you remember this information. And women are good in that. And by the way, that's that's funny how the Chinese are now looking that they are better in education and they are clever. They are not clever. They are just remembering more amount of information. But it's actually boys who have tougher to learn these informations, to remember information. But if they, let's say they will not remember all the animals from entire book, let's say thousands and thousands of animals, they will remember only half what girls will remember. But if they would have abilities to actually see them, to interact with animals, they would be capable to talk about, hey, giraffe is this animal, it have long neck, and it have this color, and the skin is soft, and they behave this way, and they are beautiful animals, and they will talk about it. They will be, let's say, interested in that animal. They will be capable to understand the animal and explain to rest of the society and future other people how this animal behave. And when they one day as adults maybe move to Africa, they would be capable to understand how this animal as a giraffe is behaving. In the case, let's say, there would be one day rangers trying to protect them against and hunters who try to hunt them and sell them on black markets. But women, the girls, will not. They will only replicate information. So they will tell you, okay, giraffe is this animal and it's doing that and behave like that, because they are replicated basically what the teacher was giving them and or what they saw and read in the book. But that's all. They are actually not capable to understand that. That's a huge issue between our genders. That's what feminism is not capable, as typical communist ideology. The communists in basics believe that all people are the same. All races, all genders are the same, and they can work the same way. From the communism, the multiculturalism and idea of immigration was born. That people are dying out, so we can replace them with different people from different part of the world, and they will behave and work the same way. This is untrue. And it's the same way with the feminism. Women cannot replace men in workforce because women are not the man. Men, yes, have worse or have much higher problems to, let's say, remember huge amount of information compared to women. But when they when they remember it, they have greater tendency to understand the information. And with understanding of information, they are actually capable to replicate information. That's what I was actually talking in 7 Circles of Hell or Gender Wars. Men are mathematical, logical beings who want to understand. And understand means to know how the things work. That's why the men are interested in things. That's why we like computers, cell phones, cars, because we want to understand how these machines work. That's why the men are the ones who travel to undiscovered parts of the world in the past, when it discovered new animals and biologies and things like that, because they want to know and understand how our world, how fauna and flora around the world works. That's what we are doing. And from that, the civilization is born, with understanding how things are working. You can replicate them, or even try to evolve them or discover new things. Unfortunately, women on average are not like that. They are capable to replicate information without actual understanding of information itself, what that means. So the woman could recitate how the engine and car engine is, how every piece of the machinery. They could tell you how it looks like, they could tell you how it's named. But if you then ask them to replicate engine, to build it, let's say in post-apocalyptic world, they will not be able. But the boys, instead, they will be. This is the reason why we need men, and why the situation where men are alone, they are collapsing. And there is actually the second episode of this series, what I'll be talking about, that women are gateways to society for men, and reality of our world where men do not have a romantic relationship, do not have girlfriends, means that they are not for our society good as they could be. It's a huge issue for us. But what I'm talking about right now is how our education system is rigged against boys and men. Because our education system is rewarding that you could remember information. But it's not rewarding how you can understand information. Our system, our entire education system is literally made today that girl can sit in her chair behind her desk, replicated just information, what is given to her through her teacher or through her books, and she could go easily through all education system and end up with some degree from some science or some topics. But that don't mean that she could truly understand it. On the other hand, we are forcing boys to sit on the chair behind their desk and remember huge amount of information that is actually unfair for them, because boys need to go outside. They need to experience for themselves. They need to look on the problems differently. Boys will not learn how the car engine works through the pictures in the book. But if you take them to some car repairer that will take out the engine from the car and showing to them, and boys would be able to touch the things, help them, watch it, how it's repaired, how it's disintegrated and putting back inside, they would actually learn how the engine is working, and not be just able to one day, let's say if society and civilization collapse, they will be capable to replicate it, or they would be in future capable, in need, or in their job, capable to fix the engine because they understand how engine is made and work. But a woman will never do. But our education system is built the way that we are rewarding people who are capable to just replicate information without actual knowledge, without actual understanding. And most importantly, this happens in higher education, in our universities. We are now rewarding and giving degree to women for their nature ability to just remember information. Would we be destroyed in next 20 years? Because in next 20, 30 years, we all could be able to put microchips in our brain and search internet online in real time. So we will be capable to replicate it and every information. So basically each of us would be capable to go to university and have a degree. And this is actually why the erosion of education system began. Because the system, education, all around our Western world was twisted, was recreated the way that child or student supposed to sit at a chair behind a desk and just taking information and replicate it, proving that they remember information. More and more, the education system was pushed towards this, but that undermined authority of the professor itself or teacher itself, because now you can replace the teacher or professor with your phone. Your phone is capable to give you information same way as the professor. But you need professor, you need teacher, who is more than data bank for information, but who is capable to actually understand the information, what it's giving to you as the student, and understand it, and look behind the information. It's capable to actually explain to you the information, what it's giving to you. But because education system was reshaped, rebuilt towards women, towards girls, and young women's, that undermine the system itself. So now you have millions of women's that came through entire education system, that have degree from university where they study philosophy or gender studies, that is for nothing. I know some corporations are still hiring people like that because, by the way, in big corporation and big companies, HR is full of the women who came from these universities, by the way. That's the first thing. And second thing, yes, they are playing on this culture that this paper means something. But more and more we see erodation and destruction of our education system. And now I can see that if let's say for me, my example of employer in hotel, for the receptionist, if I will see young man who will come who have just elementary school, but he was working as receptionist for, let's say, 1 year, or young woman that just went from university, have some degree from high university, Ivy League university from United States, and she have degree or even doctorate from that university, but she do not have any prax, I would rather hire that boy, that man, instead of that woman, because I knew reality. I knew that value of the degree from universities have no value at all, or do not have value as it was, let's say 100 years ago. And this education system, on the other hand, repelled me as the young boy or man from going through the system. because it's now demanding from me just to sit on the chair behind my desk and remember huge amount of information as the young girls. But I am not girl. I am boy, or I was boy and I am man. I don't remember this huge amount of information. I remember lower amount of information. But what I remember, I understand. I'm capable to replicate it. But education system do not care about it. This is how the mans and boys especially are repelled from going through the education system. And we are ending up that higher education system now became more just female field. And if all the university students eventually will be only women, we as a society will learn that they are not good employees as the men. We will know that very quickly. The universities are just lies. They're supposed to give you ability to reach on better salary jobs. And when the feminism start to erodate it, manipulate it, and change it, it leads to pathway to destruction, because it made women appealing to employers artificially. But if you made something artificially, people will eventually end up to discovering that it's artificial, and artificial can mean lie. It's funny how the feminism is a branch of communism. Communists are always doing things like that. They are always trying to create things artificially. They push for women to be in workforce heavily, even more than capitalists, by the way. Trust me, I was born in a communist country. I watch all that. I watch how communists constantly push women to go to workforce, how they open jobs for them, how they create universities for them. And that's why universities around the world today became basically factories for communist whores. Because they became communist factories. And they are doing same things as communists always do. Manipulation, lie, and creating artificial things. Higher education is now artificial. And it's only a matter of time when it will fall. And it's actually falling right now. But I want to move to another topic. And the main topic of this episode, an Aschen complex. The problem of our society, why it's actually a society of Aschens, is that, as I explained, to more women be capable of acquiring the job that saturating workforce job markets, and they became more sustainable to stay alone without partner, especially higher education, universities. Now we know that they are so much indoctrinated that I will say it openly, they are so arrogant that they have higher tendency that they will divorce. We know that 90% of women that went on university have chance that she will eventually divorce. 90%. So almost all higher educated women, all the women who went on university, are not capable to stay with the husband. And actually that will just lead to men who are still willing to find a woman and marry her will understand eventually that marrying university student is bad for him because she will not stay. And there are few reasons why is that. First, she's indoctrinated. She's more arrogant and she thinks about herself more than women who don't have education system. That's why I called universities factories on communist horse. The second thing is that universities with the feminism and communism and indoctrination and manipulation of their students lead that women's on universities became more promiscuous. And with a greater promiscuity, we know that women have bigger problems to stay with the man. That's the problem of body count. I already explained it in different videos and different posts, but basically more women is promiscuous, more body count she have, the bigger problem she will have to stay with one partner. And universities literally doing that. So universities are not built just to women be capable to be more appealing to future employers, but universities make them women that will need a job in the future, that literally could not be stay-home moms, stay-home wives as in the past. Because through their indoctrination, through the time when they spend on university grounds and be promiscuous, higher their body counts, less they will be capable to withstand with one husband. That means that she will divorce. That will means that, again, saturation of housing market. They will split probably with the child and stay and live in her own home, her own house or apartment. The partner, father of her child, will be living in different apartment. That's saturation of market. And because she do not have husband, will be staying with her, and two salaries can mean that, let's say, she could stay at home and doing her own jobs, doing the chores, household, or take care of the child, because she don't have husband. Husband is giving her money because it's forced to the state to pay something for her and her child, but it's never the same amount as they would stay together, especially because they must pay two households, two rents, two mortgages instead of one. She do not have as much money, and she's again forced to go outside and find the work. So universities literally doing from women future workers, and that's again good for capitalists, for employers, for companies and corporations. They create new workforce, women who are depend on them. Instead of depending on their husbands, they are depending on future employers, the companies and corporations that will hire them in the future. Instead of have a family model where they are taken care by the husband bringing money to the household, they have children, take care about the children, raise children to adulthood, and when the husband one day died, the children will take care about her when she became elderly senior. Instead, we create a situation where the women think that they don't need husband, they are staying at home, they are not staying at home, they are going to work, have lower number of children, or maybe no children at all, and they are working, giving some kind of money back to state, and state, when they will be not capable to work through the elder age, work anymore, the state through the pension will repay them again. And this is part of the process what I called the new husband of women in today is state. State replace man as the husband. And I believe it was Plato who says unmarried women is wife of the state. That means, and I know he think that differently because back then he think that state's supposed to take care about the woman. That's what our state are right now doing. But this is actually bad. And it's typical female logic because women have tendency to take about them who are suffering. Instead, a man are more cruel and they let people suffer so they could learn and be forced to do actually good things. Men would let a woman to suffer alone, so they would be forced to go and have families, but the women actually will go and take care about the suffering, but that will allow the suffering do not evolve and do the right decision. State replace man for women as primary take care. The state is the one who replaces man as the husband. That's why we see lowering of marriages. That's why we are seeing lowering of giving birth rates. This is because the state is doing this mistake. State is literally paying women to do not marry, do not have much children, and do not be dependent on the husband. That's the issue. That's the main cause why all these things happening. Because the state, publicly or unpublicly, is saying women, hey, you're supposed to go and work. And if you are a good girl and work, because the state became their husband, the state is for women now husband, and they are following what the state is saying them. And state is saying them, hey, you're supposed to work. It doesn't matter what kind of person, if you became pregnant and with who you became pregnant. So it doesn't matter what kind of children or if children you actually have. And then when you became old, I will take care about you. This is what literally state is saying to women. And this is how the state replaced man as the husband. And I know that you think that, oh, I propose that a state will do not allow women to work anymore. It could not be as harsh as that. What I am saying is that state, in the matter of Aschen complex, is actually paying women to not be with you. If we would evolve to anarcho-capitalism, as ANCAP people are suggesting, if there would not be state, how the situation will look like. Women would know that in future, when they became old and elder, they would not be capable to work anymore. They need to be taken care of. There would not be any rent, any pension in the future. If there would not be state, or if the state would not actually become their husband, if there would not be any pension in the future, she would know that she must do something with that. That she in the future need someone or something to take care about her. In the case where there is state who is paying her, is saying to her, okay, just work enough long and then I will pay to you. I will take care about you. But if the state would not do that, she would be knew that she must do something. And as I told you, women are worst workers. But they are actually good in one thing. They actually do one thing what men cannot do, and that's the children. In the past, before the state started replacing men as primary caretakers, women knew that one day she became elderly, she became old senior, and she need family and children that will take care about her. So she went out, find husband, the man who will actually take care about her and not just leave, That means that they was forced to actually think, hey, if I will sleep with this man, and if I became pregnant with this man, will he take care about me and our children? Or will he flee? That's the problem. Entire social system worldwide, and I know in United States, they do not have maternity leave. And by the way, maybe that's the reason why in the population crisis, they are a little bit better than the rest of the world. But still, the state all around the world is saying women, hey, you can go fuck with whatever you want, and if you became pregnant with him and he will just leave you and do not take care of you, first, he will force him to pay you. Why? When you can work. And second thing, even when he disappeared totally, state will take care about you. I know the United States do not have maternity leave, but anyway, the state will take care about women with a child. The culture is constantly full by feminist women ideologies that, oh, this girl is single mother, we should take care about her because she have it tough. No. If she have it tough, she should go and find a husband, man who will stay with her. And it's actually quite easy for women to do that. But instead, we have states who replace man as the husband and now saying to women, hey girls, you can do whatever you want. So they can go, they could have sexual relationship with any man what they desire. So they now became more focused on primitive feelings and primitive desires. So they are now more focused on if the man have more muscular traits, so he's physically strong or he's rich, but they do not care if that person will actually take care about her, if he will take care about the children and what kind of children she will have with him. She do not care at all. She sleep with him, and when he disappeared and she became pregnant, state will take care about her. In the past or in the future, when the state will disappear or will not take care of, if the state will stop replacing man as the husband for women, women will be forced to think long term. Think about, hey, I need more children because there will be no pension in future. And it's much better for me than going to work. Because in work, yes, I could work and I can make profit. But that profit will never be as much profitable for me as to, let's say, have 10 children that will become fully adequate adults. That means that they will become citizens of the society, that will be capable to fit in the workforce, they will be capable to establish the families of their own and other things. Basically, if you make more children and you give your children good childhood, they became in the future adults that will one day take care about you. And the problem is that the state is now saying women that they do not need to. That it's better for them to work, and after, let's say, 40 years of work, when they become old, the state will take care about them. And the state do not care how many children she actually have. That's the problem. And this leads to greatest problem that lead to population crisis. We don't have enough children anymore. And that's bad for me as the person, let's say I'm person without gender, who do not have one relationship, do not have children and things like that, do not need for sex. This is affecting me as well. Because that creates society that is collapsing. First of all, entire pension social state as it's built today is built on fact that there is more young working adult people that are supporting elderly who are not capable to work anymore, but with lowering birth rate numbers, it became more and more equal numbers, or worse numbers, that one adult person who is now working supposed to, from his salary and from his profit, support more elderly people than before. In the past, one woman, let's say, have 10 children, that became 10 adults. Okay, if 10 adults take, let's say, 10% of their salary, 10% of their profit, and give it to their mother, for them it's nothing, but 10% of the salary from 10 people is 100% of salary. So that's basically create one whole salary for you, for the elderly woman, and it's been take care of you. Instead of pension, your children take care of you, at least in financially. But there was actually many other things, how the children or grandchildren take care about the elderly, special elderly women. They support them not just financially, but by their action or taking them in their homes and things like that. If there was more people that came from one family, that means that supporting that original family was more easy for them. But instead of, let's say, 10 people giving 10% of their salary, creating 100% salary for that elderly woman, if she would have, let's say, just 5 children, 5 adults, that 5 adults must give 20% of their salary to their mother. 20% is now more than 10%. 10% is easy. That's just small amount. 20% is more. Or especially if they must do for mother from the side of wife and mother from the side of the husband. So that's 20 and 20%. That's now in 40. If each mother would have 5 children. But now it's even much more worse, because one mother now have just 3, 2, or just 1 child. And one child now supposed to support her mother when she became adult, when she became senior. And we do not see that. We overlook that because we created the state model, that the state, through the taxes, are taking money from the working ones, from adults, and sending them to the elderly, especially to the elderly women. First, in the past, where there was more adults, more working class than elderly, it was sustainable model. But right now, when the elderly became more and adults became less, that created a huge issue, because the system cannot work like that. The baggage for the adults, for working one, became much, much bigger, and eventually, and today already is, unbearable. That's huge. Our social system cannot work. And there are many other problems with lowering birth rates, with population collapse. Our society, our states cannot work anymore. But our states cannot stop, because states are evolved. Because women, with their voting rights, have created states like it is. Just allowing them to work, create the states where the state as primary caretaker replaced men as the husbands. Allowing women to go outside, to divorce, to dissolve the families, do not have enough children in the future, is road where the states as it is ends. I want to talk about one model. In my country, there is for a few decades, I believe she's doing it for third or 4 decades, maybe for 30, 40 years. There is a woman documentarist, the director and filmmaker. She's making documents through many years, the time-lapse document. She's documenting marriages in her movies. She did it long time before, even before I was born, she started doing that. So basically, she would she started in the generation of my parents. And even back then, even when the communism was at power. And I remember she came with new series where she started for 20 years watching families of new people, the younger people in already capitalist country, what we have today. And I remember the first family actually very stay in my mind. I don't remember the names of the husband and wife, but I remember the situation very well. When they get married, the arrogant, typical feminist woman was actually stating one thing. When the marriage was running, she stated, you finally catch me. She literally stated that. And of course, how the marriage ended up. The director of the documentary, returned to the families after some time, after let's say 1-2 years, over and over, again discovering how the family is going. And this couple became as typically. So they get married, they buy a house, some old house. They start to rebuild it. For sometimes the young man, has some problems with jobs, but then he found a different one. They have I believe 2 or 3 children, and then we see there is cut. A new scene, and director is talking and it's pointing out on the woman, on wife. And I don't want to generalize too much, but the wife have shaved half of her head. Immediately when I saw this picture, I said to myself, this woman stopped to sleep with her husband. It's something, I know that I will anger many people, but if a woman start to losing her hand purposely, if she shave her head or something like that, it's saying much about her. She is saying, for at least some degree, that she's not interested in man anymore, and she don't want to sleep and be encouraged with man. Honestly, it's like that. Their hairs are one of the main tools how the women are lurking man, how they establishing or how they showing themselves towards man. If the woman, let's say, go and shave her head, she is literally saying, I am not interested in a man anymore. And honestly, if the woman is not interested in man anymore, or man is not interested in women anymore, that means that they are broken. We need each other. And that's the reason why basically after winning the second win of President Trump in US voting, why so many women in 4B movement start to shave their heads, because we know that breasts or butts are primary sexual parts that it's learning the man, but the hair are actually also very important for to showing themselves and learning potential partners. By the way, that's the reason why Arabs cover the women, because they basically cover their hair, because they knew that the hair is to how to lure men. So if you have women that is at least partially start to shaving her head, I mean, she wanted, not like when she became sick and she lose her head. No, I mean, when she start doing that purposely, she's actually saying that she do not care, that she don't want men to approach her anymore. And this is important. And from the first moment when I saw her, I knew that she's not interested to having sex with her partner, with her husband anymore. But actually, it was much worse. That part of the document was in era where the husband started to cheating on her, have sexual encounter with the colleague from the work, and start to move away. Now live in empty apartment, away from his children, away from his home with his wife. Why I'm telling you that? The reason is that there is one common lie. It's merciful lie what many men often say. And I want you, my listener, to understand why that actually lie and why that is created. It's same way as when the women are pretending orgasm. It's the merciful lie what many men saying, and that's the lie of I could not withhold myself. I could not hold myself. Yeah, I cheated with you because I cannot hold myself. I'm just man and I have this biological need. That's why I cheated with you. That's a lie. It's merciful lie that it's telling you, the women, after he cheated, so you will take him back because he don't want to tell you reality. And it's important to talk about the reality. I know that many think, especially many women now think that they are cheating constantly. Dear ladies, if you find a partner and he's first 2, 3, 5 years, he's not cheating on you or he's not violent upon you, and then suddenly something change, like after 5 years of marriage, when you are 100% sure that he was not cheating on you, not like in marriage where the husband was cheating constantly. Yes, that's bad, but this is just normal state. But if it was normal that the husband or partner for first few years was not cheating on you, and suddenly he start, then something happened. And first of all, you're supposed to look upon yourself. Many women are staying and actually despising the man that the older man like younger girls, and they constantly see that only because the younger girls are more physically attractive. This is not true, and I want to explain to you why. It's actually about their attitude. In this example, what I'm trying to tell you is that he started to cheat with, let's say, younger colleague, not because younger colleague was more sexually attractive, but because she was more willing. The problem with women in long term is that always they withhold sex. The marriage supposed to be about fulfillment of needs of both partners. And yes, men and women are different and both have different priorities and little bit different needs. Man supposed to support his wife financially, protecting her, holding her when she feeling lonely, helping her making decision that's helping a lot, basically taking care about her. The sex also is needed, but not as much. On other hand, what men need from partnership, especially from the marriage, is fulfillment of his needs. He do not need financial support or protection from his wife. He need fulfillment of his need, and his need is intimacy and especially sex. But the problem is that many women start to withdrawing sex through long-term marriage, and this is creating problems. And reality is, and why the sentence, "Oh, I could not hold myself, I'm sorry," the man, what usually husbands, when they start cheat, they broke up, and after some time they return to his wife, and they will say, "Oh, I just made a mistake, and it was unplanned, I could not just hold myself, it was just my man biology." It's lie. It's lie, because he don't want to tell you, "Hey, I start to cheat with you because you withhold sex with me. You was not willing to have sex with me, to fulfill my need." And look upon how double standard and how unfair our society is. If we would have, let's say, husband and wife that live for 20 years together, and husband would stop giving the wife protection, take care about, let's say, household, or helping or supporting her, and stop giving her any money, we would conceive that as the culture as bad. We would say that this is not right husband. But on other hand, if the woman start to giving him sex, start to giving him, fulfill his need for sexual encounter and intimacy, we never see that as bad. The woman could divorce you based on the fact that husband stopped giving her money, but man cannot divorce women on fact that she stopped giving him the sex, and that's unfair. Honestly, partnership is about fulfillment of other needs. It's fair and it's right to demand fulfillment of my need in partnership. If I'm fulfilling your needs in partnership and you are not fulfilling my needs in partnership, then the partnership is not working. It's simple like that. And the reality is why so many elderly men are cheating with young girls, let's say with young colleagues, is because they are willing. Because they are free willing. Imagine that from perspective of that man. He is with his wife for, let's say, 10, 20 years. He's laying with the bed in her as every year, as many years. And let's say he wanted to have sex. He started touching her. And instead, she would be happy that after so many years of marriage, he still wants to be with her sexually. She rejects him, that she is not in mood after 20 years. Women are like that. Their body basically thinks that after giving birth, several children, getting old, that they do not need sex anymore. But the man, because in the past there was 6 women on average on one man, so one man have basically harem of wives, younger and older, there was always some wife who want to have sex with him. So when you have the husband and wife in their 40s, in the matter of sexual needs, they are in totally different places. Women don't want, especially when she has several children, she don't want most average. I know that there are exceptions, but on average, she do not need sex almost anymore. But he actually is in primes, and his body thinks that he have 6 wives at least around him, so someone must have sex with him. So his need is actually accelerated. But the wife is not fulfilling husband's needs. But on the other hand, he have at work young coworker, let's say 20-year-old young assistant. An assistant is willing. She's not just physically beautiful, and it's reason what women find or do not understand how he could sleep with her when she's not as good looking as me, because it's not entirely about physical appearance, it's about willingness. If you says young 20-year-old woman, hey, will you suck my penis? She jump over and do it literally in the second because she's willing to do that. It's normal for her. But if you say that to your 40, 50-year-old wife, she will laugh upon you that you are ridiculous and she will not do it. In her willingness to do it is mirrored why the men are often in elder age start to cheat with women. That's the part what feminists never approach. And by the way, don't take my words as the man. Look, I mentioned that I like many female stand-up comedians. In many movies, in many TV shows, many comedians. Women itself are often saying that when they are young, they are willing to satisfy man's sexual needs, probably even because they have sexual need as well. But as they became older, as they settle, as they married and are with the husband for some time, their willingness to do sexual encounter and fulfill sexual need of the husband is getting lower. The woman itself is saying that, admitting that. So it's not just my word. But that's the problem. That's the reason why so many men are willing or starting to cheat. Because they have young colleagues, young neighbor that is willing. That if you have a 20-year-old young colleague who will jump upon your penis in the moment when you just show a little bit of your interest, compared to wife what is staying in your home, getting older, getting fatter, and more disgusted by even thought to having sex with you, of course you will start to cheat. But the husband actually like his wife. He like her. He liked the family. He liked the children. He liked the household. The problem was that she just don't fill his need of sex. So after some times, and in many cases when this is happening, in many cases, the husband and wife actually get back together. And this is where this merciful lie appeared. Men will say to women, oh, I just could not hold myself. You know how we men are. We are just animals and we cannot hold our needs. That's why I start to sleep with my young coworker. For establishing or re-establishing of partnership and marriage, they will say this lie. They will not say publicly and openly, hey, I stopped sleeping with my coworker because she was willing and eager to have sex with me. Instead of you, when I touch you, you are even disgusted by the idea that I will have sex with you. They will not tell this truth. And that's why so many women believe that men are just animals that after 20, 30 years of marriage will just start to sleep around with young neighbors and young colleagues. It's not true. Reality is that most women actually cause the situation because they don't believe it's their duty to fulfill need, and sexuality is one of the need of their partner. That's the problem. And this is what happened in the document series with that first couple. She stopped to sleep with him he actually started to sleep with one of the colleagues from the work because he have this need, and he actually just found the new source how to fulfill this need. And I don't say it's right. I'm saying that this situation happened actually because he probably do not state it with the wife, hey, you do not fulfill my need, it's problem, we need to fix this problem. He probably never tell her. That's what I mentioned in 7 Circles of How Gender Wars. Men are mathematical, logical beings, but we are very bad in communication, and many times we are not capable to state reality of what we think, what we feel, what we need. That's the huge problem with us. I admitted that. And entire marriage ended up that they became divorced. She stayed a single mom with her home that was paid by him, with 2 children. Basically, great example, everything what I told. Instead of family staying in one house, with the children, they separate. So one household with all that it comes was now paying 2 places to stay. The children became disconnected with the father, and the father in their mind was probably saw as that bad husband and father who just start to cheat upon our lovely mother. This is the view in our culture that, oh yeah, the mans are the one who, if they became husband, they are cheating and they are leaving the families. No. It's different between leave the family, and yes, this is happening as well, I admit it, but I generally believe more often men are pushed out from the household instead of leave the household. That's the difference. How you can think that will end up marriage when the day of the wedding, the wife, the bride, will literally says publicly in front of her husband, oh, you finally catch me. How you think that women like that and her marriage will end up? And this marriage end up because she knew that she could do that. She knew that they could divorce. She knew that she could work, and from her work, from her salary, she could feed her and her children. But imagine in the future or in the past that there would be Gilead or there would be no state. So she would knew that she depends on husband, that she cannot allow husband to run away, because without husband, without his money, they would not survive. Literally. They would not have enough resources to food or shelter or anything else. If she would realize that she need husband, she would actually more care and would be willingless to sleep with her husband instead of stop sleeping with him, that would forcing him to fulfill his need, basic biological need, somewhere else, and that led to destruction of that family. If she would knew that she could only stay at home, and she is only be dependent on the salary what that husband is bringing to home, she would be more willing to sleep with him because she would know that she need him. And the other thing, she would be more willing to keep her attractiveness, to sexual appearance and her health. And that's another point what I want to point out, and it's important to all of us because we all used to be children. With damage of families, with destruction of families, with allowing women to go to work to divorce and destruction of the families, it have very negative impact on health of the children, on rise of the fatness, because the food what they was feed as the children. Basically, with today, women could become fat because they do not need to hold their attractiveness to still, so their husband would still find them attractive, to want to sleep with them and stay with home giving her money. Instead, she is going to work. She do not care how she looks like. She could become fat. And because she's going to work, she do not care what she's eating. She starts to eat not healthy food, or less and less healthy food, less and less homemade food, and that have negative impact on the children. I'm literally saying that because I'm one of the children. I already stated that I am obese. I was heavily obese, and I am still obese. I'm fat. I'm not as fat as used to be. I actually lose like 2 or 250 pounds in my life several times. But the problems start in my childhood. And this is precisely what I'm talking about. Because if you allowed your woman, instead of staying at home, so preparing homemade, healthier food, and take care about the children and having more children, that is better for our society as a whole. You allow women to go to work, do not take care if the husband in the future will be attractive to wife, and just flee from the wife because wife is not attractive or don't want to have or willing to have sex with husband at all. And so she's going to work, bringing money, and buying food outside instead of preparing food to home. And this food is giving to her, but also to her children. And that's very bad. Many people maybe do not understand today anymore why in all the shops we have so many semi-finished or heavily factory produced food in our shops. The answer is easier, and it's the same way with the rise of the fast food. We have them because we don't have wives and mothers at home anymore. If you have women that instead of staying at home and preparing homemade meal for her children, she's going out to the work, to her job, and then returning home after several hours in the work, 8 or even 12 hours work shift. Of course, she is not willing to prepare food anymore. So she will buy already cooked or semi-produced food that she will just heat it. But this food are worse for our bodies, and especially for bodies of our children. And this is a huge issue. If we force women back to households, to homes, not allowing them again to work, to have jobs, we would give our children more healthy food, because they would be forced to stay at home. They would be cooking more healthy food to her husband, to her, and especially to the children. And they would be more focused on healthy food and still keeping her beauty and attractiveness, because she would know that her husband can leave any time if she would not attract him anymore. By the way, that's the reason why biologically women still want sex even after they're giving children. If our world would be black and white, it would be more simple. If, let's say, we would be a species where if the husband would be not capable, or man would not be capable to have sex with another woman after getting women pregnant, then she would stop to want to have sex anymore. But her bodies, and that's the reason why even the women with several children, why the single mothers constantly want showing how attractive they are. That's why they feel that need, because their bodies know something what they consciously do not know. They knew that they are depending on a man, on her husband. So their bodies still require sex to first become pregnant again, and because they knew that having sex with her husband, with her partner, they will hold the partner in household. Instead, the partner will just leave. And we know, by the way, and the great lie and multiculturalism myth and things like that, monogamous household, when the culture literally force husband to staying with wife at home in one household and their children, is best social model ever created. This is how the greatest civilizations are made, literally. We want that. And the female bodies knew that. They knew it more than their indoctrinated, feminism manipulated minds. Their bodies knew. They just do not knew that on conscious level, that they need husbands. That's why they want sex in the first place. So they want to stay attractive. But again, in our society, they do not need to anymore. They knew that they could just leave the husband, have work for themselves, and when they became elderly, state will take care about them. That's the mistake of our system. But if we force them to stay at home and be dependent on husband, we will force women to stay attractive as possible. That leads that they will be more caring about their own health and also about health of their own children. Basically, they would have bigger families probably, because if they would be forced to stay with one husband for longer time, especially from early age, they would stay with the husband and have more children. And if they would have more children, yes, the cooking would be more problematic or more harder, yes, but more people would be fed by healthy food. And especially if the children would be girl, she would look upon her mother as example, and she would knew that she must sustain her healthy and her beauty as well, because she needed in the future. And this is where I step by, and I'm telling you that you as the person are heavily infected by what kind of food you are fed as the child. But with damage of family, with ability, with the gender war outcome society where the feminism take toll and tell that the women supposed to go to work and work, leads to situation where most women are not staying at home, cooking healthy food to their children, but buying semi-processed or fast food, bringing to that home because they are exhausted from 8 or 12-hour shift in their work, and bringing bad food to their children, especially single mothers. There was decade ago, our journalists discover that single mothers have hard life, that have it hard. They do not have family. They do not have even enough money to pay hot meal for their young child in elementary school, and they was shocked. But they do not talk about how they was talking about how it's easier to give a little bit of money to the child, so child will go and buy, let's say, yogurt and roll, or let's say Snickers bar, instead of paying, let's say, 5 times price in school kitchen and have a healthy hot meal what's supposed to be cooked at home. And they never talk about it. Our gynocentric feminist society, they talk about how it's hard for women. And they found typical solution that they start to gather. They basically create a charity that could gather money so they could pay that. This is not solution. And they always focused on women, not about the child. Because the fact is that the child, if it's raised by a single mother, or mother that is going out and working, will probably buy fast food, or let's say sweets like a Snickers bar or Mars bar, because it will feed you as well. But it's destroying your health, your body. You became fat, you became sick. Why you think I'm fat? Because my mother went to work. And she constantly complained. My father was actually the ones, he was elderly man, so he still wanted to have a hot meal at home at least 3 times a day. But the problem was that, of course, there was problem on the other hand that he didn't bring enough money to the household. That was his role, what he failed. But my mother was constantly complaining that she don't went anywhere, and when she come from home, from work, that she must cook hot food again, and she's exhausted. Of course she was exhausted, because she went to work. And after 8-12 hour shift at work, you don't have any force anymore, any power to go and cook food for your family for another 30 minutes. And I like very much how many cookers of modern cooking styles says, oh, but you can prepare food actually in just 2 minutes and it's much easier. But these cookers always forget that you must clean the tools, you must clean the plates and other things after that. Everything took you time and your power, your will, your energy. Instead, if you buy Big Mac and fries in McDonald's and bring that to your children, that is causing you often less the money, and it's not taking your time, and you will just throw away the boxes outside. The reason why the fast foods, why the semi-produced, heavily produced food was sold so much is because women stop being at home, stop cooking normal, healthy, homemade food to the children, and stop to going to work. Destruction of family model means heavy toll on people's health. That's the issue. That's a huge issue, because there is no greater crime than innocent child to do that thing to child that could not decide. If the woman would be suffering without husband alone, okay, it's their choice. But if the child is suffering as well, let's say because the child became fat, obese, and have healthy issue, or have issue with establishing actually partnership with the partner, especially boys raised by single mothers will have heavy tough to actually go outside and find wife for themselves. because they will become fat. They will be heavily dependent on mothers. This is destroying their life, but we allow that. Why? And there is one very important thing what I want to talk about. Destruction of family. Destruction of our Christian family model of one husband, one wife, and their children led to terrible outcomes on ourselves, on us all. I know I already mentioned atomic family model, basically husband, wife, and 2 or 3 children. But this model was actually, it's like 1950s American model. This model is not correct as well. The real model of family is husband, wife, and 10, 12, 15 children in one household. And I know how it sounds like. Even for me, it sounds very bad. Or something not good or not right. I was living my whole life wanting to have children on my own, but always thinking that I want only one child. Because I generally believe that if you have more than 2 children, let's say if you have 3 children, at least one child is always left behind, because the family and parents have always tendency to like the youngest child or the oldest child, the first one. And especially if there are 3 children in household, the middle child have it always the worst. But then I was start watching the dating podcast from Pearl Davis. By the way, from her podcast was that man talking about back then when she was still in Britain, who pointing out why the housing market is so saturated. But I realized something with her. I came up with new model of social behavior, that what I call Pearl Davis effect. I start to noticing how Pearl, I know you can find her silly and maybe stupid. Many women start to attacking her. It's actually funny. I kind of enjoy her right now, not just because what she's talking about, but the funny part is how the women are actually, and the feminists, what Andrew Tate would call metrics, is now attacking her. It was just a matter of time, and it's funny how attacked her, basically pointing out her mistakes. We are all humans. We all made mistakes. I already told you that I'm fat. This was a mistake as well. And yes, the people made mistakes. An important part is to learn from our mistakes. But anyway, I found out one thing interesting that I start to actually analyze more and more often, not just with Pearl Davis, but with many others. Pearl have tendency to constantly say that it's right to bully people. It's right to bully. Let's say it's right to bully people that they are fat shame, and that it will force them to change. Basically, typical right-wing point of view. In fact, I am preparing one episode about obesity, where this is a heavy topic for me because I have strong feelings about that. I am fat all my life from my childhood, and I came up with lots of things on my body and on my mind, lots of scars on my body and on my mind. And I generally believe the topic of obesity is showing us how the left and right is thinking, and how this is fault of our world, where the capitalism created communism, and both are extremes, and both extreme point of view are looking on obesity and fatness basically wrong. They are both extreme solution. They both offer extreme solutions, and they are both wrong eventually. The Pearl Davis is typically right-leaning person, blaming individual and saying, oh, if we as the society will shame, if we will shame people that they are fat, it will force them to change themselves, to become more healthy, to start doing something with that. If we as the society will shame women to be more promiscuous, it will force them to stop being promiscuous. This is her typical view. And it kind of started to notice me why and how Per constantly trying to say the bullying is right. She constantly looking on bullying someone as basically good thing. And it noticed me, because I definitely don't think that. And then I realized why it's maybe that. The Pearl is from the family with lots of siblings. She have many, I believe she have nine siblings of her own, adopted or genetically related, bloodline related. She have several sisters and brothers, and she often even talk about how she do not understand one of her brother, but eventually she evolved and she now understand him, and they have better relations and things like that. In that moment, I realized one thing, that maybe in the past, 99.9% of families was families where there was father, wife. In other models like Islamic or other civilization model, there was actually several wives, but lots of children. Typically, family have, let's say, 10, 12, 15 children in household through the life. Right now, in our civilization, many people are single child, or have, let's say, one or two brothers or sisters, maybe have a large time span between them. Basically, let's say they became child when the sibling is already teenager, so when they approaching, let's say, teenage years, the sibling is already gone from household, and things like that. And I start to think about, is this have some kind of impact on our mentality? In our Western world, especially in our Western world, we are right now seeing a rise of people what we call snowflakes. People who are very offended if someone says something what they do not like, or someone acts towards them differently. And these people, the snowflakes, are very fragile, and they have huge problems to withstand all the harshness of our reality, our society, and our world. And I start to think, I look on the Pearl Davis, the girl who was raised with the household with actually several siblings. And I start to notice one thing. What if we, and by the way, I am single child from single child household, what if we are damaged? What if this is not how it used to be? Let's come with me. If you are in household and you have lots of siblings, let's say, imagine that you are a child and you have five sisters and 5 brothers in the same household. Some are a little bit younger, some are a little bit older than you, but they are constantly around you. The children, as the Marge Simpson from Simpson series says, children can be cruel. And as Bart Simpson replied, really, we can, mother. Thank you, mommy. No, joke aside, children are cruel. Yes, they are. Not because they are cruel or stupid, but they just lack understanding. They lack understanding that they could be hurtful to others. So basically, children are very cruel, and they are bullying each other, they are demanding each other, and things like that. If you are raised in the household where there are several children around you, your siblings around you, they are bullying you from very young age, but they still love you. They are still people, and my point why I constantly suggesting that women are supposed to be at home and take care about their children is, instead of going outside and working, is that if you are at home with the children are people who are genetically very familiar, very similar to you. They are same people. If you are surrounded by 10 other siblings, most of the siblings are like you. First of all, they are literally programmed to like you, to love you, and in most time they really love you. And even that, if that's not happening, the people, especially your siblings, are similar to you. Not just physically, but also mentally. And yes, sometimes some of the child could be variant, could be a little bit different than rest of the family. That could happen, of course. But imagine if we would have society where each family member would be raised in household that there would be, let's say, 10 siblings. So you would have 5 brothers, 5 sisters. Your father would have 5 brothers and 5 sisters. And your mother would have 5 brothers and 5 sisters. So there would be about 32 people around you. Maybe not directly, but 32 people in your closest family. And I'm not calculating how all the brothers and sisters of your mothers and sister would have the children of their own, but there would be probably at least 32 people that they would be very similar to you. And if you would be black swan, if you would be the ones who is more variant, more diverse from the rest of the family, what kind of chances will be that in your closest proximate family would be someone else similar to you that could understand you, that could tell you how they live their own life and how that actually understand things, help you to more fit in the society on your family model. And come back to you as the child. You have 5 siblings of 5 brothers and 5 sisters, 10 siblings around you. They constantly try pushing you, telling you bad things, bullying you basically, but they mean it well. And you are bullying them probably back. So basically you learn this behavior. And when you actually get to kindergarten or to elementary school, when you meet other children that they are not related to you anymore, that they are from different household, not from your family, they are strangers to you, and they start to bullying you, they are cruel to you, because children are cruel, you actually taking that more kindly or more better than someone who is from the single child household. Basically, it's the same principle like with immunity on disease. If you get with dirt and microbes through your life, when you become adult, your immunity is stronger. But if you, let's say, is raised in perfectly clean, hygiene environment, and you never get ill at all, your immunity is very low. This is concept what all biologists will tell you it's true. What if the mentally it's actually the same? If you have many siblings around you who are constantly pushing you, bullying you, but on the other hand love you, you get used to them. And you get used to human interaction between people. Compared to people like me, myself, that are basically snowflakes. And when I enter the kindergarten and preschool and elementary school, when the social interaction that are basically normal, when they start to bullying me, I don't have immunity towards that, mental immunity, as the people who are child from the families with lots of siblings around them. This is not creating immunity in us and many people, and that's the probable reason why we have now culture of and so many people who are snowflakes, because they do not learn in their childhood how to behave, how to handle these terrible things like, other child coming and telling me that I'm fat and I'm disgusting and I'm completely mentally broken down from that, compared to Pearl that was surrounded by many other siblings and they constantly running around and say, hey, you are ugly because you are ginger, and she get used to it. We know, by the way, all these mass shooters from the schools and from the public who take the guns, especially the incels, who just take the gun and shoot innocent people who they do not know. There is interesting statistic. None of that people ever was from large functional family. From the family where there is father present, best way biological father present with mother and lots of genetically similar siblings. From the families like that are never the mass shooters, never people who break down mentally after this heavy impact from the society. Never. Maybe because they are better, because they have better mental immunity. We actually, this information is not mine, honestly. I heard that from one American couple, pronatalist, who believe that the society should be based on family and bigger families. And they pointed out, and they actually talking about one example that about the family of children that was in household without parents at all, and they have terrible childhood, but because it was many of them and they hold together, they survive, and they was mentally better on it than the most people who are raised without siblings. And there is also very good point of view to pointing out how this is bad. Maybe if you have several siblings, if you have 5 brothers and 5 sisters, and it doesn't matter if you are man or woman, if you are girl or boy, you watch them, you understand them, they are talking with you, and your understanding of opposite gender and romantic relationship and sexual encounters is probably better for you. You understand that more than you don't. The girl that have, let's say, 5 brothers understand and see how the brothers are rejected, how they behave, how they are capable to sleep with the woman and just act act after that like they do not know her, or what kind of toll it would have on their mentality if they are rejected. So they have greater understanding of opposite side, or the boys who are raised next to five sisters. They also are capable to see in the women's, would they approach, would they have sex, or want to have at least romantic relationship with them. They see them more and understand them more. Maybe this is helping. There is no study, I believe, and it's a shame we don't have studies. How many boys raised with lots of sisters in one household, how many of them actually in adulthood have problems to establish relationship with women? How many incels outside who cannot find the girlfriend or wife are actually single child or very limited, almost without siblings household? I will tell you one story. One YouTuber, a female YouTuber on our Czech YouTube scene, she's making videos where the people are sending her their stories to her and she reject on them. And one girl sent this YouTuber a story. Interesting story that fascinates me until this day. Young girl from, I believe, elementary school, never what kind, early teenage years, let's say. That girl saw her schoolmate, the boy what went to same class as her. She looked and she saw as he was masturbating under his desk in the class. Nobody else noticed that, but she noticed. And the girl what was sending the story described that she was so shocked and so disgusted that she could not look on that boy for several months, and she have huge problem to establish any contact with him. I still remind you that this is a teenage girl, and YouTuber reacted, she understand it, and now he's disgusting and basically confirm her, and actually many other YouTubers confirm same logic. And I don't say the masturbation on public in the class is right, oh, of course, but just idea that teenage girl look upon teenage boy that is masturbating. And by the way, he was not masturbating over her. He was just masturbating on semi-public place, and she saw that. His action was not towards her. It was just coincidence that she actually saw him to do that. But it happened anyway. And I know this is not all right. And I do not suggest that any man is supposed to be masturbate on public. But what actually shocked me was the feelings of that girl. Of how she described how she was disgusted. I know it's not right to masturbate it, and I know to look on someone else to masturbate, it could be, let's say, not right, but say disgusting. What kind of girl it is? Think about it for the moment. If there is teenage girl that look upon man, her colleague, her another teenage boy on his erected penis, how he masturbating, and she's disgusted and traumatized by that. I'm sorry, but it's something wrong with her. This is not normal. Just think about it for the situation if situation would be opposite. If some young teenage boy would says that he is disgusted by his female classmate, an older woman, just because he saw how she is masturbating herself, that he saw her pussy. This would be unbelievable, of course. And think about it, how that is connected to our distracted family model. If there would be a girl that is raised all her childhood in household with, let's say, 5 other brothers, older or younger, she would probably at least once in her life see how one of her brothers was masturbating or having sex with some girl. She would probably saw that. And she would not be disgusted and traumatized by that. She would just knew how it worked. We know that actually from the past that this is how it originally works back then. The boys with lots of sisters knew how the women's act, knew how their bodies looks like. The girls with lots of brothers knew how the men's act, and they was not traumatized when they saw how some boy show his erected penis. But today we have girl that see young teenage boy masturbating, and she's teenage also, and she's traumatized by that, and all the YouTubers are supporting that. This is crazy. Just think what kind of let's say that she is still heterosexual, that she is attracted to men, and she will have relationship probably with several men in the future. How you think that this girl will actually react and will behave in partnership when she's disgusted by look on other man penis during the masturbation? This is crazy. How you think her relationship will end up? Not well. Definitely not well. Okay. This is my Pearl Davis effect. I generally believe that we supposed to restore families, and families supposed to have at least 10 children, so we will be raised with lots of siblings, and that give us better mental immunity, better understanding of others, better understanding of opposite gender, and probably better ability to find partner in the future. And this is my Aschen complex. The feminism destruction of family Christian model led to, for me as the man, but for you as a woman as well, led to saturation of housing market, where the prices of rents, housing, apartment, and mortgage are unbelievable, and you cannot have it, you cannot afford it. So saturation market. So I'm now paying, let's say, 4 times bigger rent than I'm supposed to. Saturation of workforce and job market, where because women, instead of be at home and take care about the children, future generations, they are going to work, and it creates a situation where my own work is not valued and it's not priced as it should be. That means that I have lower salary than I could have. That means that I'm paying more for my rent, I'm giving less for my salary. Entire education system is now rigged and reshaped to just create women more attractive workers and pushing me outside, because it's demanding from me just to replicate information without actually understanding what women can do better and men don't, that is pushing me outside of education system. State replace me as the caretaker and then makes me unusable husband. And because of that, the family was destroyed. That have impact on my health because I am now raised in household where the homemade food is not cooked. So lots of children became fat. And of course, I know many right-wing, I must do the episode about obesity. Many right-wing people, many capitalists will tell you that it's your fault that you are fat. Okay, we can say if you became fat when you are adult, then okay, let's say it's their fault. But if you became fat when you was child because your mother was going to work instead of being at home and cooking healthy food for you, then it's not your fault. I'm sorry, but it's not. And you can blame me as you want, but this is fault of the system. This is the point of Aschen complex. When you think I ever tasted McDonald's food? When my mother was very long at her work, so she didn't have time or energy to cook anymore, so she just buy Big Mac and French fries and bring it to home. This is how I tasted McDonald's food first time in my life. I was 7 years old, by the way. So it's not my fault. And nobody who became fat when he was still a child, when he still was not 18 or elder, it's not his fault. In our civilization, we agree that until 18 years of your life, you are not responsible for your actions. Your parents are. So if you became fat when you are still a child, it's fault of your parents. And it's not fair to mock them or bully them for that. Because it's not their fault. And by the way, millions and millions of people, millions and millions of children around the world are fat. And we know the fatness and obesity is shortening your life. On average, 5 years. This situation, this world, this gynocentric civilization, basically under Aschen complex civilization, is taking lives of the people. 5 years from each person who is fat. And it's damaging the children, damaging you as the person for the rest of your life, because many of them will not understand or withstand behaviors of opposite gender, would not be able to find partner or withhold with a partner in one household. And we are returning back on the beginning on the feminism and first feminists as the scam. They was the people who was not capable to find and withstand with the husband, and they literally create a culture where almost everybody is the same as they was. The feminism is literally Aschen's. They look on surface appealing, but they destroy our society. And I know I promised that I will be not talking about romantic and sex, and I was trying, but all and everything is connected. And I do not mention how do not have enough sex is also have bad impact on mentality and mental illness of the population. But just the fact that I am forced to pay high rents, have lower salaries, have big healthy issues because I'm fat from the childhood. And the state is for all women, their husband, and education system do not allow me to be best version of myself, to go and let's say study gender studies, You know from my series that I would be probably good in that if I'm thinking about things like that, but I was not allowed because the system pushed me out, because system is made for women, not for men. So this was my introduction to Aschen complex. Thank you for your time. I know it was very long, but I hope you enjoy it. And I hope I reveal all the important information. And until the second episode of the series Aschen Complex, I wish you good nights, good evenings, good mornings, and good days. Goodbye.